Have you ever given so much of yourself to someone that when they finally walked away, you realized there was nothing left of you? Have you ever lost sleep helping someone through their storm, only for that person to move on as though you never existed? If that question just settled somewhere deep inside your chest, then what you are about to hear is meant for you, because there is a cost to helping others that nobody ever speaks about openly. It does not show up in money or time. It shows up in your peace, your energy, and the slow disappearance of who you once were. In a warm little town lined with old mango trees, there lived a woman named Clara. Her door was always open. Her table always had something on it, and her heart had no walls. Neighbors came to her when their marriages were falling apart. Friends called at midnight when they could not sleep. Even strangers found their way to her and left feeling lighter. Clara always gave. She gave advice, she gave time, she gave comfort, and every time she walked away feeling like she had done something meaningful. But slowly, without Clara even noticing, something began to change. She started waking up tired before the day had begun. Her own dreams, the small pottery shop she had always wanted, the evening walks she used to love, the journal she had not touched in months, all of it had been quietly pushed aside. She was so busy holding other people together that she had forgotten she was slowly coming undone. And because she was always strong, nobody around her thought to check if she was okay. They simply assumed she was. One afternoon, her friend Rose came over crying about her husband. Clara listened for 3 hours. She made tea twice. She stayed patient through every tear. When Rose finally left, she hugged Clara and said, "I do not know what I would do without you." Clara smiled and closed the door. Then she sat on the kitchen floor and stared at the wall, feeling something she could not quite name. It was not sadness, exactly. It was more like an emptiness that had been filling quietly for a very long time. That night, lying in the dark, Clara thought about how long it had been since someone had truly asked how she was and really meant it. She thought about the pottery shop. She thought about her journal. She remembered her mother's words from years ago. A river that gives everything and is never refilled will one day run dry. She had never understood those words as a child. But lying there in the silence, she finally did. And something in her quietly broke open. Helping others genuinely feels good. When we support someone through difficulty, the brain releases warmth and a sense of purpose. Research in psychology has long shown that giving activates the same regions connected to reward and human connection. This is why natural helpers often describe their giving as part of who they are. It becomes identity. It becomes meaning. But the same research also reveals something quieter and more troubling. When helping becomes boundless and habitual, driven by obligation rather than genuine choice, it slowly depletes the very resources that keep a person whole. Clara had a neighbor named Mr. Edwin, a retired teacher with a stillness about him that made you feel both seen and settled. One morning, he found her sitting on her front step with a cup of tea she had not touched. He sat beside her, and after a long silence said, "You have been carrying everyone's water, Clara. But who has been carrying yours?" The tears came before she could stop them. "I do not even know when it started," she said softly. He nodded. It never starts with a loud moment. It starts with one yes that should have been a no. What Clara was experiencing has a name. Psychologists call it compassion fatigue. It is a deep emotional and physical exhaustion that develops when a person absorbs the struggles of others over time without rest or replenishment. Unlike ordinary tiredness, it reaches into the soul. It turns empathy, the very gift that made someone a great helper, into a source of hollowness. And what makes it especially difficult is that those experiencing it rarely recognize it because they have spent so long looking outward that they no longer know how to look inward. Mr. Edwin told Clara about a candle placed in a dark room. Every person who entered was grateful for its warmth and light, but no one thought to protect it from the wind. No one wondered whether it had enough left to keep burning. They simply took the light for granted, and one evening, the candle flickered and quietly went out. Not because it had been unkind, but because no one, not even the candle itself, had ever thought to shield its own flame. Clara sat with that story for many days, and slowly she began to notice things she had been too busy to see. Certain people only called when they needed something. Her energy after certain conversations was always lower, never higher. She had been saying yes out of fear of being seen as selfish, fear of losing her value in people's lives. Because somewhere along the way, helping had stopped being a choice and had become something she believed she had to do in order to deserve her place in the hearts of the people around her. Research on helping behavior has found something quietly troubling. The more a person gives without limits, the more others unconsciously begin to expect that giving. The helper, rather than being elevated, often becomes invisible as a full human being. They are seen as a function, not a person. Studies have shown that helpers who consistently give beyond their capacity not only suffer emotionally, but also gradually set aside their own goals, their own growth, and their own lives to meet the ever-growing demands placed on them by others. One evening, a friend called asking Clara to come over and help sort through some family tension. Clara took a breath and said quietly, "I care about you, but I cannot come tonight. I need this evening for myself." There was a pause on the line. Then her friend said simply, "Oh, okay." The world did not end. The friendship did not shatter. And Clara opened her journal that night for the first time in months and wrote one single line. She wrote, "I am also someone who deserves to be taken care of." That sentence became a door. Once she walked through it, everything began to shift. She started paying attention to how she felt before and after time spent with different people. She began to notice which relationships filled her and which ones consistently emptied her. She did not cut people off or become cold. She simply became honest, first with herself and then carefully and kindly with others. She learned that it was possible to love someone and still say no. She learned that a boundary was not a wall. It was the very thing that made it possible to keep the door open for much longer. Helping others is not the problem. The act of giving, of showing up, of offering comfort is one of the most human things we can do. The problem is the quiet belief that our worth is measured by how useful we are to others. The problem is the silence we keep when we are struggling, the inability to ask for help ourselves, and the slow sacrifice of our own lives for everyone else's comfort. When we help from an empty place, we are not truly helping. We are simply performing, and unlike genuine care, performance cannot be sustained over time. Clara eventually opened her pottery shop. It was small and sunny, with clay dust on the windowsills and mismatched chairs where visitors could sit and breathe. She still helped people. She still listened and gave. But it came from a full place now. It came from genuine choice. And when she felt herself beginning to run empty, she stopped. She rested. She tended to herself the way she had always tended to others. And the people who truly valued her understood and respected that completely. The hidden cost of helping others is never paid all at once. It is paid quietly, in small moments. Each time you silence your own needs to make room for someone else's. Each time you miss your rest. Each time you swallow your sadness to hold space for another person. These small withdrawals add up over months and years into a weight that arrives one day as exhaustion or as a hollow feeling you cannot quite explain. And most helpers never connect the dots because they were taught early that selflessness is a virtue and that putting yourself first is something to feel ashamed of. Think about it this way. When you board an airplane and the safety instructions begin, they always say the same thing. In an emergency, put your own oxygen mask on before helping anyone else. Not because you matter more, but because you cannot help anyone if you are not breathing. The same truth applies to your daily life. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. You cannot give warmth when your own flame has gone out. Taking care of yourself is not a detour from helping the world. It is the foundation that makes sustainable and genuine help possible. Clara kept a ceramic tile above the door of her pottery shop. It was uneven and slightly lopsided because she had made it herself on an early morning when her hands were still learning. On it, she had painted 4 simple words. The words said, "Fill yourself up first." Visitors sometimes stopped and smiled. Sometimes they nodded slowly, as if the words had touched somewhere personal. And occasionally, someone lingered there, a little too long, eyes going still, recognizing in those 4 words something they had needed to hear for a very long time. So if you have seen yourself somewhere in this story, if the weight of always being available has started to feel heavier than it once did, let this be your reminder. You are not a tool to be used when convenient and set aside when not needed. You are a person with dreams, with a deep need for rest, and with a right to receive as well as give. Helping others is beautiful, but helping yourself is not betrayal. It is wisdom. It is the very thing that keeps your light burning long enough to truly matter. The day you decide to be as gentle with yourself as you have always been with everyone else, that is the day your life truly begins to belong to you again. Not because you have stopped caring about others, but because you have finally started caring about yourself with the same patience, the same honesty, and the same quiet grace you have so freely and generously given to everyone around you for so very long.